Claudine Gay back in the news, this time for censoring another professor's data in a Harvard study that didn't fit her narrative. Weird, right? That a university would do that. We live in a world that has nearly every bit of information and data at your fingertips. You can consume it at the rate of a fire hose, but people like Claudine Gay and a huge swath of academics and the media and our moral overlords at the social media companies, the ones tasked with the job and who claim to be the purveyors of information and education and truth, are the greatest culprits of censoring it. If it doesn't fit their narrative, they just don't want you to see it. And they will shut you down, they'll ridicule you, they'll call you a threat to democracy if you fight back, too.
Extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is 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 extremely dangerous to our democracy.
Right. I mean, it's not a secret. Of course, all the media institutions will deny it, but the story of Professor Roland Fryer is the most insane example of this. If you haven't heard of this guy, he is the youngest black professor ever tenured at Harvard, and he's just now speaking out because of Claudine Gay's resignation and firing. He was found guilty of the crime of publishing data as it presented itself. That's it. Of course, it didn't fit the narrative of Claudine Gay, who was trying to push something else at Harvard. This economics professor, back in 2016, conducted a study showing no racial bias in police shootings. In fact, the opposite was true. He was then told by Claudine Gay, overseeing him at the time, not to publish that part of the study. This is Harvard, supposedly the gold standard of education at the time. Their logo literally has the word Veritas. You can see it right there. Veritas means truth. Anyway, he conducted a study that took almost a year to research, using 8 resident assistants, these RAs, to culminate all that data. There were 2 parts to this. The first, yes, showed that to a certain degree that there was some racial bias in mild to low-level police excessive force, but there was no evidence that black people were being shot by cops in any greater numbers than whites, directly contradicting headlines like this. We've seen these for the last 2 decades. Well, Professor Fryer's study, in fact, said the opposite, and according to Claudine Gay, we can't have that here at Harvard. So he showed that actually more white people were likely to be shot during police interactions than black people, and that's per capita. Now, being a black professor raised by his grandparents because his father was in jail and his mother was absent, and reading headlines just like that his entire career, he was shocked by these findings. It went against everything he had been told his entire life. So he got 8 brand new resident assistants, the same RAs, and had them conduct the same study with an entirely new research team, and they came up with the same data. Weird. So as a professor with integrity, he actually decided to publish the story anyway. Everybody told him it was going to end his career. He didn't care. It was the facts. And according to him, he was then told by Claudine Gay that he could publish the first part of the study about excessive force, but not the part about countering the actual police shootings at a university. And of course, because this, again, went against the conventional political narrative at Harvard. If you recall a time, there were riots in 2016 in the wake of shootings of Michael Brown, Eric Gardner. That was like the beginning of BLM. Well, so he published this study anyway, and just like what they do with anyone they don't like, he was mysteriously and immediately investigated for sexual harassment. He was suspended for 2 years, with Claudine Gay herself saying in a letter to the economics department, quote, exhibited a pattern of behavior that failed to meet the expectations of conduct within our community. That's rich, coming from what we now know her character expectations are. This guy got death threats, he was shouted down, he was ridiculed, put on unpaid leave for 2 years. These people who are tasked and paid to teach us did this. They couldn't have the real data. The gatekeepers for education and the exchange of ideas. But this is a symptom of a larger problem. Anytime, and this is like the same people entering the workforce, anytime people bring out data that might go against the conventional narrative, they are shouted down. I get this all the time. People don't disagree with the facts, they just call me some horrible thing. Perfect example, the recent shooting at this Chiefs Championships victory parade. The media hid every detail they could about the shooters until about 2 hours ago. Over a week later, oh, we can't confirm, oh, they might be juveniles, blah, blah, blah. Really? Because the same networks had a very different opinion when it was Kyle Rittenhouse. I mean, he was named day one, and the media covered him for like months. Nick Sandeman did the exact same thing. I mean, he was basically just standing there smiling. He didn't even do anything, and it was... He's super wealthy for that, by the way, thank God. And hell, I mean, they were happy to expose this poor 9-year-old Chiefs fans who didn't do anything even remotely wrong. The media jumped on them immediately. Why? Well, Ann Coulter didn't hold back.
I mean, we don't know who did this shooting, by the way, the Super Bowl shooting.
We have some idea.
What?
If it were a white man shooting, we'd know.
Well, we don't know. But they haven't.
That's how we know it's not a white man. I can tell you that much.
You see how quiet everybody got in there? But it's just not by race. The trans Nashville shooter in their non-binary manifesto was held for over a year from us. And a variety of other trans, gay, or even that Free Palestine church shooter we just saw. They shut down the news on that on most networks the second they found out the shooters weren't some white Trump supporter. Now, I'm not saying this to denigrate anyone, but how do you fix a problem if you ignore that it exists? Some things just are what they are. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. The people saying there's a race problem, like Claudine Gay, who literally blamed her ouster, not on her plagiarism, no, but she blamed it on racism, systemic racism. Those people are the biggest perpetuators of all the things that they condemn people like you and I for. They don't want to fix the problem. They say they do, but they don't. They want to ignore it. Or worse, like BLM did, they want to raise a bunch of money off of it. The people who scream the loudest about injustice refuse to accept the data that would actually help them address it. They even try to suppress it, actually. We're being told things are one way for some mythical social justice that will never come if we don't address the problem as it exists. Journalists, certainly professors, should not have to work with censored information that goes against that. It should be applauded to challenge the narrative. I mean, if everybody subscribed to this stupid groupthink, we'd still think the earth was flat.